Hello and welcome to my view from the piano bench right here. We do this every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. here on my Joel Holt's Notes YouTube channel, along with Piano for My Friends every Thursday evening at 7. Thank you to those of you who support and encourage me through the links available on the support page of my website, and you'll find a link to that in the video description. Any drop in the tip jar is appreciated if you're so inclined. And if you're somebody who watches regularly, perhaps the Patreon would work for you in that regard. It's a unique take. So every week I have a topic that I kind of explore. On Thursday nights, I just play. On Wednesday nights, I talk a bit or a lot, which is always a crapshoot. It's always safer if I just play. But got to take a chance once in a while, right? So the topic for today is, or the title really, it's a topic, but more of a title today, an improbable provision. One of the labels that's attached to musicians, in addition to like stylistic label, classic jazz pianist maybe to describe me, I never know what to call myself. Hang on a second. That was possibly rude, but that may look a little better. Anyhow, let's just keep going. Awkwardness is my life. One of the labels attached to musicians has to do with the geography of our outreach, or specifically where we perform. Now, social media has changed the landscape of that a bit, because anyone can access YouTube videos and such. So it doesn't matter what state you live in or what country you live in. We can communicate this way. But the terms still apply in terms of where somebody works and where you can hear them live. And the four basic terms for geography are local, regional, national, and international. Local musician, regional musician, etc. And the one that best applies to me, especially right now, is regional. And that would be like the Mid-Atlantic United States. I spent about half my life in the South Jersey suburbs of Philadelphia and, entrenched myself as a musician there. And if you look at the bio on my website, and it says extensive Atlantic City casino performing or whatever it is, that was when, well, actually, no, that wasn't when I was living there. But what I was attempting to say, my brain isn't working, is that area is Philadelphia, Greater Philadelphia, is where I worked a lot when I was younger. And then when I moved down here to the eastern shore of Maryland, which is Greater Baltimore region and beach resorts down here, then I started to network more in this area. And the region that I work is possibly a slightly larger region than you might say for a regional musician, but essentially that. Most of the time between like Philadelphia and DC and basically everything east of that. Sometimes I venture beyond that. And there are some differences between Philadelphia and Baltimore for sure. Baltimore, DC is usually grouped together as a region. When I first moved from the Philadelphia area, first into Delaware and then further south to here, I learned some things like I was in the town of Newark, Delaware, and if you're in New Jersey, it's Newark. First time I called it Newark, Delaware, I got corrected quickly. Just like when I was down this area a little further and I would go to a town on the coast in Delaware and I would say I'm going to the shore, everybody jumps on you. That's the Jersey Shore. These are the Delaware beaches. Just a thing. But there have also been seasons of my life where I've had different opportunities, both as a soloist and as a sideman, meaning a member of a group, to play around the United States, and I think it's probably fair that on the first page of my website you'll see in a little blurb that I wrote, primarily a regional musician with some burst of national along the way or something like that. But I don't call myself a national performer because if I were, I wouldn't go like years and years and years at a time without traveling, without significant traveling. Although there are times when I was doing significant traveling. The soloists and the sideman around the U.S. were different kinds of circumstances, but they were opportunities to travel and experience things I wouldn't have been able to experience otherwise. Which would be, I guess, when I wrote this, first thing I thought was, well, that's would be true of the military. Join the military, see the world, or whatever. Be a musician and see, the inside of a venue. No, but you do get to travel. And in my case, it was like either long meandering car trips, meandering because we would go out to the Midwest, like 1,500 miles west, whichever way that is, and stop at little churches along the way. That was my primary outlet when I was doing that. And you just sort of stay wherever you stay. You stay in people's houses. You get to know people, or inexpensive motels or whatever. But also the other thing about like being flown to different cities and playing festivals and sometimes getting treated really well, sometimes good enough, and I really enjoyed those seasons. I enjoy everything I do, but I enjoyed those seasons. There we go. There we go. Don't fence me in. That reminds me, on one of those trips, we were in Lemon, South Dakota. You think that Chestertown, Maryland is, a tiny town for a city hub and there's nothing around here, which is true, especially if you're like used to the city. Chestertown's a town of 5,000 people and change. It's the biggest town for 30 miles in any direction. If you want to go to the Walmart, minimum 30 miles, right? Lemon, South Dakota is, I think, 1,500-ish people, or maybe a little more now, maybe less, the way things are out there. And I think it's the biggest city for 3 hours and change in any direction. 180 miles or whatever it is to Bismarck, North Dakota. And we were in, I was playing a church there. So I was there overnight, staying with nice people, and I had breakfast with them in the morning. And said, "Would you like what you're eating?" I said, "Sure." And said, "You know what the sausage is made out of?" And I didn't even think about it. Didn't notice that it wasn't as greasy, and it had deer and antelope. I was, oh, cool. And then I remembered a little variation on the theme that my mother would sing to me when I was young. "Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, and I'll show you a messy house," right? And now we had to have a verse too, "Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam and the deer and the antelope over breakfast." Right? But yeah, stuff like that's fun. I wasn't planning to say that, but "Don't Fence Me In" made me think of it. So, I've gotten to see places. I don't know if it was that trip, but it was one of the trips to the Dakotas, and I got to see Mount Rushmore and do the touristy thing and stuff. Because destinations, when you travel, the reasons that I do, are kind of random. You don't necessarily travel to a destination. You're just you're going someplace new, and every place new is someplace you've never been, and it's cool, And I've always, felt grateful about that, and it's always been good. So whatever the performance opportunities have taken me, it's where I go, as opposed to where I choose to go. And again, I say I'm fine with that. So my travel log is unique to me. Lots of small Midwestern towns, places out west, ski resorts out west in the summer. And that was interesting. And when it dawned on me that it's only because I live on the East Coast and do a lot at the beaches and the shore areas, that it's just burned in me that winter is the off season. Well, winter is the off season because summer is when people use the beaches. But if you're a ski resort area, summer is the off season. So places out there do in the summer what people here do in the winter, which is have special events, themed attractions and such to bring people into the town or into the resort so that it can be functioning all year as opposed to part year. And it's interesting things that you just don't think about unless you're somewhere else and you see it from a different angle. So been some fun places, but never been to New Orleans. And it's going to sound horrible, but well, no, I can make it sound better than horrible. I was going to say I've never had a desire to go, but part of what's underlying this theme is that I've never been inclined to just go someplace for the sake of going. I just let the gigging take me there, and I've never gigged down there, you know. But it's still kind of ironical that I've never been to New Orleans. Way down yonder in New Orleans. Yep. Someday I'll go. Boy, man, lots of thoughts I just had that I'm not going to share because they won't make any sense. But they do to me. Story of my life. So I've never had international gigging opportunities. So I've never traveled internationally. I almost did. There was one thing that was set up, without going into detail, and we'll just call it a moving goalpost situation that worked for me when it was first presented, and as it morphed into other things, it did not work for me, and so I took myself off of it, and that was it. But because of that, I had a passport. And, once you have a passport, it's easy enough to renew. And I found myself with a unique opportunity. And I was able to have somebody, a friend of a friend essentially, was willing to show me around northern Germany. And I'm like, hey, I have actually a space on my calendar in the month of July. I could do this. And it's like, okay, cool. And man, I surprised myself and everyone else because it's just not like me whatsoever. But it just all worked, Everything fell into place. And so, okay, and I was able to do it, did financially and otherwise. I could pull it off. So let's be a normal person. Well, one of the things I learned on this trip, and of course I knew it going in, I'm not a normal person. But anyway, this experience happened, didn't it? Yes. So because I'm traveling outside of music, and this is something that really became kind of large in my view as I was planning this, the guaranteed opportunity to play music is gone. And if I only really travel for music, then the ability to play music is built in. Not necessarily the thing that I really rely on now, which is the ability to hit the piano every morning, kind of open up the space and all that. But at least the opportunity to play. Now, if I'm driving someplace, which I'd much rather do than fly, my keyboard that I use for gigs goes with me and goes in the hotel room. And I can sit there for an hour in the morning, and there is no substitute for an acoustic piano. But the thing that comes closest is a full-size weighted action keyboard. And then you can use headphones if you want, so no one else hears you. And experience is, close enough to the same that it meets the same purposes, and it's good. But can't do that on an airplane. And I would consider what I do in the morning, honestly, self-medicating. And yeah, it's just something I need to do. And I've come to understand that about myself and, succumb to it, basically. Happily succumb to it because this is a happy space. But really, it's always good to just embrace what is and not try to make it something it isn't. And we're always going to be learning those lessons throughout our lives, even if we're ones to kind of preach it ourselves, like me, because we all fall on our faces, don't we? Not me, yeah, right. So basically, I was going to take a 2-week trip while leaving my medication at home on purpose, which seems not to be the best plan, but it's actually like a necessary plan if I want to do this. Now I have a small keyboard. When I say small, I mean like the smaller size keys. It's 4 octaves, but if I have a long suitcase that it will fit in, and the experience is really not close enough. I imagine it would be, like if I were Art Tatum or Fats Waller, my hands are really big. It might be kind of what the keys are like, but actually smaller. And I had that with me. I had something else with me that could have helped as well. But still, it wasn't going to be sufficient, and I just couldn't worry about it. There was a larger sense to me that I was supposed to do this, and sometimes you just have that. Sometimes you just, okay, I need to do this time, or whatever, or here's the opportunity, here's the door I'm supposed to walk through, all of that. But with that larger sense that this is what I was supposed to do, there's also the understanding or the sense of faith that I have that if you are where you were supposed to be, you will have what you need. And that's kind of an important thing when you accept a lifestyle or a profession as a calling. And I would liken playing music on a serious level to accepting the calling, like somebody accepts a calling to be a minister or a priest, or in the clergy of some kind. And if you do that, for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, you give up your thing about that you're living to make as much money as you can, which I wouldn't think that way. But of course, make as much money to do the things you want to do, and it becomes more around that as opposed to I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and that circumstance will take care of my needs, right? And that's kind of how it works. It works with the music business. We don't do this because it makes sense. We do this because it's where our heart is, it's where we're supposed to be, it's what we feel called to do, it's what makes us happy, and we're content with what it provides. And it always works out one way or another, right? A two-word title, I Believe. Right. So, I booked an Airbnb room in northern Germany before I left for the first time in my life using Airbnb. Uh, and I had every indication that this was going to be a good place. And so I went ahead and booked it and then read the reviews. And when I got to a certain review, my heart became very, very, very happy. And I messaged the host because I saw somebody wrote, and if you're lucky when you stay here, Reinar and his partner, which turned out to be his wife, will be practicing when you're downstairs, because they're, and as she put it, they're both professional musicians. And I'm like, oh my goodness! All of a sudden, I don't feel so alone anymore. Oh, now there's two tunes, all alone, all by myself, that I should be playing one of them right now, shouldn't I? I don't know if I remember either of them. Or what do you know? I do remember. No, I don't. Something like that. All right. Yeah, that was an appropriate tune to play there because, I did feel alone in that regard, and uncomfortably so. So just the idea that I knew I would be around two musicians some of the time made me feel good. I didn't expect anything, I didn't presume anything, and there was no reason to, because the host did not respond, and that was fine. I understand Airbnb, has reviews on both the destinations and the host and the guests. So not only can the uh, travelers review the place they want to stay, the host can review the guests to see if they want to have them. And I felt like, maybe I was at a disadvantage because I had no trail there. I had, so I explained in the first thing what I was doing and first time using Airbnb and blah blah blah. So, but okay, this guy's not going to respond. Fine. So I didn't know what to think, and it was okay. I was just happy that there were going to be uh, musicians there. Uh, but when I got there the first day, and of course by then I'm kind of exhausted, right? Because I think it's kind of standard fare when you go to Europe or go in that direction. You probably stay awake for the most part at least on the plane, and then you get there the next day and you power through the day, and then you just crash. So I was in that power through the day thing, and I meet my host, and I'm going to go out for a bit and come back, and he says, okay, and when you're ready, I'll take you upstairs to the piano. I'm like, really? Ooh. And of course, that made me happy. But I was actually not wanting to play the piano the first day. I was spent, I touched the piano a little bit in the morning, which was now the day before. No, it was I get confused. But anyway, earlier on what was my day that was long, I did touch the piano. I felt it was okay. I come back and it's like, you want to see the piano now? It's okay, fine. Yeah, great. I didn't say okay, fine. And he wanted me to play. And so he was sitting there, and safe to say I was not in the space. I just kind of played it. I meandered everywhere, and I was just aware that not that I was auditioning, but it was it was what it was, and pegs were not falling in the slots, and I just wasn't in the right place to play. I could play, reasonably, yeah, and I could just foot tapping, like, ooh, okay. Now, you've heard me talk about how important that is as a marker. That you're putting over a groove that gets across. But also, it also told me that even though it was pretty obvious that he and his wife were classical musicians, he was engaged by what I was doing, and that's really the point. And he was very complimentary, and I played 10-15 minutes, just meandered around. I figured I was supposed to. I was grateful to do it. It's just I would have been asleep by then. I was about to fall asleep when he came in my room and said, "Want to go to the piano?" Right? It was like very early in the evening. But then he said the really improbable thing, which just was the brightest light in the whole trip, as nice as the trip was, which was, you have access to this room. You can come upstairs because my quarters were in the basement. The only other thing, articulate Joe, in the house, besides storage and my room and bathroom, was the kitchen. So they would come down a few times a day for meals, but otherwise they never came down there. And the guests don't typically come up, I'm sure. But I said, you come up anytime you want. You don't ask. You just come up and play. Like, you got to be kidding me. And wow. And so that thing that I was dreading, I can't say dreading because I wasn't obsessed with it. The thing I wasn't looking forward to and just not thinking about, because my focus was just, I'm supposed to do this, took care of itself. And that was almost going to be the title of the theme, about there's always a provision, right? Oh, that is the title. Then it was going to be some other, no. This is the old sheet, that's why. The title is an improbable something, right? What did I say this was? I just wrote it today. Yeah, an improbable provision, as opposed to the idea, which I totally subscribe to, but understand that not everybody is willing to embrace, that if you are where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do, you will be taken care of. And I guess it was important after all. So I get to touch the piano every morning because I got to do it there, and made my host very happy, and made me very happy, and kind of, endeared me to them, and them to me. So I got to open the space every morning. And then one, maybe 2 or 3 days in, not long in at all, or maybe a second day or whatever, I knew that, not that I know any German folk music or anything like that, but I knew that if I played the Martin Luther hymn that I know as "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God," that would be a connection point. So I purposely went there. Okay, in the middle of one of my morning meanderings, which took me everywhere, and I was conscious that I would do more classical-esque things in addition to everything else I did. And then I looked up, and almost immediately, the two of them were standing at the door with the biggest smile on their face. It's like, okay, jackpot, Joe. This was the right call. And so I was able to dig into it, and it kept going with it. And then we had to talk about it right after that. It was just they were so delighted, and it's cool, man. This is just really going well. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I assumed that I probably wasn't going to do any posting out there. I went there with an open mind. I just realized, okay, this is a detour. This is only like a couple of days after I got back, that I neglected to put a placeholder Sunday evening hymn up on Sunday. When I can't post one, I linked to an old YouTube video that probably nobody's seen in forever of me playing a hymn. I forgot to do that Sunday. Well, what do you know? Well, nobody wrote me any hate mail, so I guess it's okay. But because I intend to do placeholder Sunday evening hymns, and maybe placeholder might be from the piano bench and piano for my friends. I just wasn't sure. I just left it all open. And my internet situation wasn't really conducive to uploading hour-long videos, but I could get away with a shorter video, so I'm like, okay. I asked the host, can I record video here? I'll record that for my Sunday evening hymn, and he was all over it. So if you follow me on Facebook or you see it on YouTube, actually I put it on my Joe Holt's Notes 2022 YouTube channel. Not my main one, but I did post that hymn, and that was tribute to my host. And let's see what happens if I play it now. interesting. Yeah, I can't say that I have come across a set way that I play that, but I haven't really found a way to approach it more rhythmically, and it just sort of happened that time, which is how it needs to work. I need to find it. I need to, or have it find me, as opposed to me like trying to figure it out. And uh, the version I was playing, or the occasion that I was playing for my host, that created, the energy in the room that you have with the audience. And yeah, I didn't entirely have that with the video I posted. I was pleased enough with it. It was okay. And you'll find it posted on my Joe Holt's Notes 2022 YouTube channel, or if you follow me on Facebook, I linked it there. And then I went, uploaded on Sunday, and then went out. I recorded, I guess, Saturday or something, or Thursday, I don't know. But I uploaded it Sunday, went out, and thought I had in the Airbnb little message portal thing that very conveniently automatically translates languages. So I thought I sent him that link, and apparently I didn't. And so the next morning, he sees me and he asks me, I've been looking for that link. Did you post that? Yeah, I can't find it. And he was on my main Joe Holt's Notes YouTube channel, which told me that, okay, he actually did, because I sent my website address just so he would know where I was coming from when I messaged him before I came. And apparently he did check me out. And of course, he would have no way of knowing that I have something like 14 YouTube channels. And I was apologetic. I meant to message it to him, and I didn't, and he couldn't find it. So he was very happy to know that it was posted, and I sent him the link, and it's just so cute. He's like, I'm going to send this to my son and my daughter and my and it's like, cool. And so yeah, I'll get to that about his whole family is musicians, including his kids, which is really cool. Yeah, so I did the right thing with all of that. So my hosts were both retired school music teachers, and I was able to have a nice conversation with him one day. They retired in 2012, and I had read somewhere online, because I was trying to research them, and there's not much, but that they went to music college, and it was in Berlin in the 70s and early 70s, so older than me, graduated in the early 70s, I think. And it's probably a routine that he does with his guests, because I saw this in reviews too. He will take the guest on a walk through the, what's the word, district, maybe, of Blankenese, which is, I guess, technically in Hamburg, but in the outskirts or just outside or part of Hamburg. I'm not sure. But it is a very well-to-do area, and historically significant, but just beautiful. Walk through the parks, and I don't think I didn't post a lot of pictures on Facebook. I did post a few things, but I didn't go crazy, and I didn't do the picture dump at the end of the trip like some people do. No, I just one picture a day, with a caption, and that's good enough. But it was a really lovely walk, and sat down at the water and just got to talk. Communication was, I probably should have enunciated more. And a friend of mine who lived in Germany, who picked me up from the airport, said, "Did you enunciate?" Not entirely. You need to enunciate. I just talk normally. So yeah, I don't think he understood everything I said, but we were certainly able to communicate as two musicians, and it was really really cool. And I hipped him to the movie Mr. Holland's Opus, and suggested that if they can find it with German subtitles, he and his wife need to watch it. And it is absolutely apparent to me that my host was one of those music teachers, one of those Mr. Hollins just invests himself in what he does. I told him about the story that I've said here about when I was a freshman in high school and my wonderful band director uh, put together a freshman ragtime ensemble because I played the Scott Joplin rags, and he did something both to make it accessible for the more beginner students and more challenging for me, because that's what a good leader will do, will challenge you. And he rewrote the whole thing in B flat instead of C, which makes it a nightmare to play if you're used to playing it in C and you're really not that old and experienced. You're 13 or whatever I was when I started high school, 14. And uh, and he just says something like, "Yep, that's what we do." So it was just really crazy, super cool. Uh, Another super cool thing was that I got to experience what some of the reviews talked about hearing them practice and play. And I just love sitting downstairs when he was playing upstairs. Uh, I did a couple phone recordings of 40 seconds or whatever, looking up the steps. And piano was faint in the recording, but you can certainly hear it, just to experience what that was like. And I thought about posting it because he probably wouldn't know. He probably would have given his permission, but it's like, nah. That's just my little thing. I also collected video of the random street musicians I came across, and posted one on my musician page. But yeah, that was all good. So my first experience with Airbnb was absolutely perfect, and the trip was wonderful. I seriously doubt I'll ever do anything like that again. If I wind up going overseas, it will be because the music takes me there, and I have no expectations of where the music takes me. I'm grateful to go where I'm led and destined to go. But man, that first experience with Airbnb is so perfect. I don't really even want to use Airbnb again. It's just like the fairy tale thing right now. It's like anything is going to be disappointing after that. I didn't even mention how beautiful the accommodations were, and how ridiculously nice everything was. And yeah, so if you follow me on Facebook or YouTube, you saw the video that I posted. I didn't tell them I was going to do it, but when I was upstairs the last day I was there, I recorded. They can't take that away from me, and then posted it right before I left. As my laptop was running out of juice because I had to give back the adapter to the person who was showing me around, and I was able to get it posted, just in time, and it was just a nice, appropriate little song to play in tribute. And thanks to my host. And I'll play it again because it'll be different every time I play something. It's different. So there you go. Now I'm going to work on getting my internal time schedule back to normal uh, and go from here. So see you soon, maybe tomorrow night for Piano for My Friends. Thanks so much.